Good morning, Happy Valley, and welcome back to another edition of the Penn State 365 podcast. As always, I'm your host, Richie O'Leary, and joined today by Dylan Callahan Crowley, Happy Valley Insider's senior writer, editor. Well, I don't even know what your title is anymore. Mr. Do-It-All. Dylan, it was an exciting weekend for Penn State. They had a lot of recruits on campus, but before that, let's jump right into the one that wasn't on campus. 2025 running back commit Alvin Henderson took a trip down to Auburn. A little concerning considering Auburn finished second in his recruitment before he committed to Penn State. Where does things kind of stand with Alvin?
Yeah, so I mean, this is anytime you recruit these kids from Alabama, from Florida, anywhere from the South, it's gonna be a recruitment that you're not going to, pick up commitment and then you don't have to worry about them for the next 6 months, like a kid from Pennsylvania, from Maryland, New Jersey. Not that that doesn't happen with local talent, but when it's a local town, it's a little easier to keep tabs on, a little bit easier to control if you're a program. But when you're talking about a prospect who is not in your region and lives far away, this case the South especially, there are recruitments that don't end when you pick up the commitment. There are recruitments that end when the pen officially hits the paper in December or February, and that's what Penn State's in for with Alvin Henderson. I think we all knew that when he picked up the commitment, or when he committed to Penn State back in April. But yeah, I mean, I think Penn State would have preferred that he wouldn't have visited another school this close after a commitment. I mean, this is just a little bit over a month after a commitment. He's visiting another program. That being said, I mean, we knew Auburn was always going to be a threat in this recruitment and is going to continue to be a threat in this recruitment going forward until he eventually signs with Auburn, Penn State, or somebody else in December or February. So yeah, this is going to be one where Penn State just has to kind of continue to recruit him, even though he's committed, and hope to hold on to him over the next not 9 months, but over the next 7 months here, and just see how this goes. But it's not going to be easy, and this is not going to be the last time he visits another campus. I mean, I think he's now been to Auburn over a dozen times as recruitment.
Yeah.
The Tigers are going to continue to recruit him hard, and they're going to try to continue to flip. They're going to continue to try to flip him for Penn State, and they're not going to be the only ones probably either. So it's going to be really interesting for the next 7 months or so.
Yeah, I just counted 14 different times he's visited Auburn, 4 of which came in this calendar year. Auburn, also, he said Auburn was on him before he committed, of course. They were recruiting him pretty hard, but they also called and texted him and his mom, apparently, for the next 72 hours after he committed to Penn State. So this is definitely going to be an interesting one. We'll see if Penn State can end up winning this one. They will get him back on campus on June 14th for an official. And as of right now, that's his only official visit. But apparently, Florida State's pushing for an official. Of course, Auburn wants an official. And I'm sure there's others out there. Do you think he ends up taking other official visits?
I would be more surprised if he didn't than I would be if he did take official visits. So yeah, I expect Henderson to probably pop up on at least one or two other campuses for official visits in June, or perhaps even further down the road this fall.
Now, I know today you put out a hot board for Penn State recruiting on offense. Just kind of talk to me a little bit about that, and if they're still hosting another running back still in Jabri Coleman. Do you think it could just be a quick swap if Henderson flips, or is it more like would they still take Coleman and make a fourth running back in this class, or would that be kind of crazy?
I think Coleman is a keep that recruitment on the warm burner. Continue to recruit Coleman because yeah, you're gonna have to hold on to Henderson. That's not going to be easy. If they do, I don't think they'd take Coleman. I think Coleman would be a fine running back if something happens to Henderson. But right now, I think he's kind of just on that warm burner. Continue to recruit him because with the other contenders in his recruitment right now, I think Penn State, that's a recruitment where Penn State could kind of put it on the back burner, and if they need to later on in the cycle, go full court press on it if they need to, and have a chance of flipping him down the road if he commits elsewhere. But Henderson's not the only one who's from the South. Keandre Barker is from the South. Uh, Originally from Arkansas, played in Texas. Was supposed to play at Miami Central this upcoming season, though I see his profile right now has him back in Arkansas, but we'll see what happens there. But either way, they got to hold on to Barker too, because that's going to be a kid now that he's playing this fall that as long as he puts up numbers as expected, his stock is going to rise once again after falling a little bit after missing this past season. And other schools are going to get involved there as well. So definitely
Yeah.
something to watch.
Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued, and I'm glad you mentioned Keandre Barker. Like you said, he was supposed to go to Miami Central, but now he's back in Arkansas, and he's at BB High School,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But Arkansas just offered too. Now he's not an Arkansas native technically. He spent a good chunk of his life in Arkansas. He's actually a California native, but he
Yeah.
moved to Arkansas in his elementary school years. Do you think that offer kind of plays a factor at all? And also, we're being told that USC, California native, is pushing to kind of try and flip them too.
I don't think I don't think it hurts, especially we're talking about USC. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think USC appeals to a lot of kids. Hell, I know I'm somebody who especially East Coast, Midwest kids. Everybody sees USC or sees Los Angeles as this
Mm-hmm.
mecca of entertainment and everything. It's Los Angeles, it's Hollywood, it's all that. Some of it lives up to the hype, some of it doesn't. I think we both can agree on that. But yeah, I think there's always going to be appeal when it comes to USC for kids, no matter if they're a California native or not.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Arkansas, you know, I wouldn't rule out the Razorbacks, but I don't think they're a huge threat just yet for Penn State when it comes to Barker. If things
Okay.
progress there, it'll be something to watch. But I wouldn't be too worried about Arkansas right now. Good, good solid program. A lot of good recruiters on that staff, but Barker, I would definitely say they're down the list of other suitors that I would right now have my radar on for Barker if he were
Mm-hmm.
to flip.
Yeah, I might be reaching a little bit on this one, but the fact that he's went to Southern California where he lived originally,
Yeah.
born and raised, then moved to Arkansas, then moved to Miami, Florida, then moved back to Arkansas, moved to Texas at some point in between all that. He's never been in the Northeast. Would weather play a factor in this recruitment? Because I know it does for some kids.
It definitely does for some kids. Could in this recruitment, sure, but I don't consider it a factor unless a kid kind of obviously has a uh, preference for not going north. Then you could usually tell based
Mm-hmm.
off their visits to other programs what schools they're showing the most interest in, or if they say it out loud as well, of course. Because at the end of the day, if these kids want to get to the NFL, they're going to have to play in the cold weather, so might
Mm-hmm.
as well get used to it at some point.
Yeah. Other big things that happened this weekend: Dia Bell, top 50 recruit
Yep.
in the 2026 class, was on campus. Do you think Penn State has a legit shot there? It sounds like he was pretty optimistic after talking to him.
Yeah, I think they are a legitimate contender for him. I think it's going to be tough to, beat out the likes of LSU, Texas, and a
Hmm.
few others in there. But I think Penn State is definitely within that top grouping of schools who could potentially land Diabella. He keeps saying the right things after these visits to Penn State. Penn State continues to recruit him really well.
Hmm.
Uh, I think, yeah, I think they're on the short list of potential programs he can land at. I'm not ready to put in a future cast or anything like that.
Hmm.
I would say it's not even close to that just yet, just because there are a lot of really good programs out there in this recruitment. And again, we're talking about a kid from the South. Does he want to stay in the South? Does he want to play in the SEC, or does he want to come north, play for Penn State? Um, it'll be interesting. And everything to note here with quarterbacks is just Penn State, unfortunately, despite putting every James Franklin, not every James Franklin, but every starting quarterback for Penn State since James Franklin took over has landed in the NFL. Penn State still doesn't have that, pedigree at the quarterback position that could help be a deciding factor in recruitment. LSU obviously does. Texas uh, maybe doesn't have that pedigree to the same extent, but they have Quinn Ewers, potential first round pick. They have
Mm-hmm.
Arch down there, of course, and Steve Sarkisian has put a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL as well. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, Penn State doesn't have that going for them, which I think is always makes it tougher for them to win these recruitments for top high end quarterbacks.
Yeah, totally get it. Other news that happened this weekend on the recruiting trail: one of the nation's top receivers, number 81 overall recruit in 2025 class, Quincy Porter, out of Bergen Catholic, scheduled his official visit to Penn State May 31st. He also has official visits to Ohio State the weekend after, Michigan the weekend after that, and Oklahoma the weekend after that. Where does Penn State kind of sit in this one? Because I know it's definitely going to be a tough one. This is one of the nation's best.
Yeah, I think personally I would have it probably as the first tier being Michigan and Ohio State, or vice versa. No set order between those two. I think those two are possibly the leaders right now. And then I think Penn State is kind of battling out for Oklahoma right now for that third spot.
Okay.
Uh, th- uh, they're in it, but I would still be surprised if Quincy Porter ends up in the blue and white. Uh, they did get him on campus for an unofficial visit this spring, which seemed to
Mm-hmm.
go well. That was positive, but I still think there's work to make up. If I had to guess right now, I'd have to guess it'd probably be Ohio State.
Gotcha. Yeah, tend to agree with you on that one. Bergen Catholic has not been kind to Penn State over the years, and it is what it is. It's not St. Francis level bad. It's not St. Joe's Prep level bad, but it's approaching that level. Um, Other than that, any ideas? I know we had this question asked on our Ask the Staff this week. Any ideas who the next commitment might be? And it could be offense, defense.
Oof.
It's a
Yeah.
tough one,
Let
I
me.
know.
Well, going back quickly, you asked me. You mentioned my 2025 big board update. Did throw
Hmm.
that up today. Not a complete big board, as in this is every single player that Penn State's targeting, but
Yeah.
it is the names I think to know at each position.
Hmm.
A couple notes there, like quarterback. I think this is Beckham Kritz class right now. I think they're going to continue to pursue Matt Zollers,
Hmm.
but I think it's Kritza and Zollers are the two quarterbacks they're interested in this cycle or going forward.
Hmm.
Kritza, they also have committed. He seems to be firmly committed. No worries there. Zollers obviously committed to Missouri. Have a lot of work there to do to flip him.
Hmm.
But if Zollers doesn't work out, they're perfectly fine just with Kritza. If they can get Zollers to flip, I think they would take both. But I don't think there's anybody else that they would pursue as that second quarterback right now if Zollers does not work out.
Hmm.
Obviously mentioned Jabri Wallace Coleman there with the running backs. And then wide receivers, we went through a few there. Tight
Hmm.
ends, a few. Um, Offensively, I guess the next one that would maybe make sense could be a Lex Cyrus. That's been somebody we've been targeting as
Hmm.
potential commitment for a while. Uh,
He'll be on campus next week too for an
yeah.
official. So keep an eye on that.
Beyond that, it really is tough to potentially pinpoint a few. Just because I know a lot of these guys are going to want to take the remainder of their official visits. Um, I could see. Yeah, this is really tough. Um,
Yeah, not an easy one.
yeah, I would say Lex Cyrus is probably the guy that I could see, but I think he
Hmm.
still has an official visit to Kentucky after that. Um, yeah, so
That's fair. Like,
timeline wise, I think Jeff Exiner uh, makes sense. I could see him making official. I could see him making a commitment
hmm.
after his Penn State official visit on the 7th. He already took his OV to Virginia Tech in April,
Hmm.
has one to Michigan State at the end next week, then Penn State. I don't think Syracuse and Maryland are going to really factor into this one too much. So I could see a commitment for him after that Penn State OV.
Okay. Interesting. Some good stuff. Next up on the list, we didn't talk about the Elite 11 All 22 camp. Beckham Kritzer came to campus, or I shouldn't say,
Yep.
well, he did come to campus. But they all went to State College High School down the street from State College. How the hell Nike Penn State pulled that one off is amazing, because it's hard enough to get kids out to visit already, but to get them all
Yep.
down the street basically, and then have them visit afterwards or even the day before, because they all fly in the day before, drive in, whatever, is huge. But
Yep.
what are your overall thoughts on how that camp went?
Yeah, I mean, for Penn State, for in-state and regional targets, I think it went well. You look at some of the top performers from the All 22, a lot of big names here.
Hmm.
Uh, Marquez Wimberly, running back 2026. Uh, Maybe not necessarily a Penn State target right now, does not have a Penn State offer, but
Hmm.
plays for Nazareth, really good running back. He's going to end up at a Power 4 program. Uh, Somebody I've really gotten to know well throughout his recruitment. Really good kid. So I was excited for him to see that. But that's just a name to know regionally. Elijah Turner from St. Joe's Prep was the uh, top wide receiver. Not a Penn State target, but another good in-state performance. 2026 offensive tackle Brendan Alexander, who has a Penn State offer, I believe, amongst some other Power 4 offers. He
Yeah.
picked up the offensive line of the offensive line MVP. Definitely a name to know there in the 2026 cycle.
Hmm.
Uh, 2026 linebacker Davion Taylor, who's committed to West Virginia, picked up the linebacker MVP, and then at DB 2027 corner Lowry Moon, somebody who we've talked about a lot on the board, a lot about on the podcast, picked up the DB MVP honors. Uh, Obviously, a big name to watch there. Been at Penn State almost double-digit times already in his recruitment. Going to be one to watch going forward.
Hmm.
Um, when it comes to quarterbacks, Manziller's got elite 11 invite. Ryan Montgomery got an elite 11 invite.
Hmm.
Both former Penn State targets. Obviously, they're still recruiting Zollers. Uh, Malik Washington recently got invited to the Elite 11 finals as well.
Hmm.
Uh, when it comes to Washington, I think him and Penn State are pretty much done. I would not expect anything there. But beyond him, Diabella came up, had a good performance, visited campus. Uh, Another former target in Blake Hebert had a good performance. And then a couple regional 2026 prospects to watch out for. Uh, DePaul Catholic, New Jersey's Derek Zammit had a nice
Hmm.
day, was
Yeah.
one of the
Top.
top athletic performers.
Yep.
Hayden Falzone out of Nazareth and Dante Carr out of Minersville all had good performances. I'm not sure any of them will ever end up being Penn State scholarship level quarterbacks, but could become just good names to know around the region in the 2026 cycle.
Hmm. Derek Zammit was originally supposed to visit campus too. He didn't end up making it, but he said he will be back in the summer for a camp.
Yep.
Something to note.
Has almost double digit offers. I mean, he is a
Oh yeah,
Power 4 quarterback.
yeah,
Just
for sure.
is he going to be a Penn State quarterback level quarterback? It remains to be seen. But Boston
Hmm.
College, Cincinnati, Duke, Mississippi State, Rutgers, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest
Hmm.
have all offered.
Yeah, a little interesting note. They've tended to go pretty far out of state for their quarterback prospects over the past couple of years. Not counting Drew, obviously, but Ethan Jackson. Something also in common with Ethan Jackson and Drew. All these guys made the Elite 11. Is Penn State not going to have an Elite 11 quarterback this year? Because it doesn't look that way currently.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I know overall what I heard from a couple of colleagues who were at the Elite 11 on Sunday. I had a baby shower. Me and my wife had our baby shower on
Congrats, dude.
Sunday, but
Hope you got some good gifts.
uh, we were, or our future one was definitely spoiled. But from the colleagues I was able to talk to about the Elite 11, Kritza had a pretty good day overall. I mean, he kind of showed what Beckham Kritza is right now, which is
Hmm.
overall a kid who has a high ceiling, but that floor is also kind of low. It's going to take time for him to put it all together if he ever does put it all together. Uh, but it sounds like he could be someone who does eventually receive an offer to the Leland Finals. Perhaps it's one of those that doesn't come until like week of, but
Okay.
I still think there's hope for him to get there.
Yeah, I'm still in the boat, and I've been pretty adamant about this on the pod, on the boards. I'm not a fan of his game. I think he has a weird hitch in his throw. I think he struggles to get the ball out. Is he athletic? Yes. Is he tall and skinny? That's an issue too in its own right. You got to kind of pack on the pounds. How's that going to affect his entire game? Because his entire game is based on kind of he has a good arm, but he's also based on being mobile too.
Yep.
I'm just not sure how he's going to translate to the next level. I think he might just be a filler piece, and there's a reason they're still going after Zollers type. If you could land Zollers, I would give this quarterback class an A plus. Right now, I'm probably going to give it like a C minus. I don't think it's a great commit. It's a commit, and it's a decent one, but not nothing special personally. But
It does help that I think they believe, well, like we believe, that Ethan Grunkmeyer has a chance to be a multi-year starting quarterback.
I agree. Yeah.
So you do have the ability of, say, Drew goes to the NFL after this year. Ethan can step in as a redshirt freshman,
Mm-hmm.
start for 2 or 3 years, and then at that point, Kritza has either developed to a point where he's ability to be a starter, or he's probably not at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
And I,
That's going to be an intriguing battle next year between Grunk and Bo, and maybe even Jackson a little bit if
yeah,
he gets fully healthy
and
again.
and the other thing to note here is I think Penn State's obviously going after some really big names in that 2026 cycle. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can land a big name in the 2026 cycle, it makes it a little bit easier to take a project quarterback like Beckham Kritza
Mm-hmm.
to in the 2025 cycle. Because I think that's the best way to describe him is as a project. He has that
Mm-hmm.
high ceiling, but that floor is pretty low, and it's going to take 2, maybe even 3 years for him to put it all together before he's
Mm-hmm.
ready to be a starter at the Big Ten level, if he ever does reach that ceiling.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what Andy Koltonicky can do. He's done it in the past with some Kansas quarterback commits, which is the most impressive thing in the world, personally,
For sure.
in my mind, at least. If you could turn Kansas into a football program, I think you could turn any quarterback to a decent one, at least. Um, but moving on a bit, other news that came out this week: Penn State Board of Trustees officially approved the Beaver Stadium renovations. Some fans are pissed, and by some I mean all. Um, I'm personally in the boat where it needs to be updated. It needs to do. You need to do all these other things to get these corporate guys in there, and I get it.
Yep.
I don't know what your thoughts are, but I am curious to know what you think of these new renderings. I know it looks a little newish, but newish is
Yeah.
not always bad.
So I think the stadium absolutely needs to be, renovated. My only problem with it's early draft for illustration purposes only. That's
Yeah.
the important part to note. But it does seem just very corporate, lifeless.
Hmm.
Like I wouldn't say Beaver Stadium has. It does. Beaver Stadium right now is like a huge. It's just a huge high school stadium, if we're being honest about it. But
Yeah.
there's also some sort of charm about the simplicity of it. Um, Now, if you go back to the renderings in 2017, they had like a brick facade um, out front of Beaver Stadium, which I thought would have been a cool touch. This just feels like every other major stadium built in the last 20 years of football. But at the end of the day, it's about, I think, college football, what's inside the stadium, that's more so than what's outside the stadium. But I think it's just such a drastic change from, you know, a massive, basically high school football style stadium to uh, what would look like, every modern day outdoor stadium in college football, the NFL, which is okay. Again, it's all about what happens inside, and inside is still going to be the same atmosphere. But I think I'd just like to see some more character, I guess, when it comes to um, when it does eventually reach its final uh, renovations. Just a
Yeah.
little bit more character. I like the
It
brick a little
is
bit more, but
very, very different. Um, I don't disagree because almost every building on campus is red brick. So it makes more sense. But I don't know. This is just I don't mind it because you know what it is too. End of the day, most of these seats, there's new seats, these luxury seats are going to
Yeah,
go to corporate sponsors. And end of the day, you want corporate sponsors there because these are the guys that are going to fund your
right,
NIL. They're going to
right.
fund your renovations. Like I'm first off, I'm personally shocked that Penn State is going to pull this off because did you see how much it cost? It's like what was it, 700 million?
Yeah, so $700 million to renovate, and they project because of the renovations, they actually over 30 years make a $44 million profit
Mm-hmm.
in the budget book because of enhanced ticket revenue, new naming rights, new premium seating, new concession contracts,
Mm-hmm.
additional philanthropy and uh, naming
Naming rights, all that
rights,
stuff.
abilities,
Yeah.
everything. Additional special event revenues, better circulation, invited club, media
Mm-hmm.
contracts, Big Ten revenue, um, all that. But if you actually, you could actually bring it up if you go to our article. Yep,
Is that this
there.
one? Yeah.
Yep, and if you actually, well, if you go, I don't know if you're looking at just the screenshots. If you go to our article, I have the link
Yeah,
there.
I'm on the article too.
Um, so if you want to scroll up, you can actually see the renovate.
Oh,
Uh,
the timeline.
no, keep going.
What am I looking?
Hit the here link,
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
and if you scroll down here,
What am I going to?
you'll see right
This
here.
one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
right here. You can see, you know, it cost $700 million. They could have chosen to repair it over the next, basically 30 years, but
Replace it.
yeah, or replace it, which would have cost $2 billion. I think it may get a little. No, there's only my
Would have
screen, but
cost you a shit ton of fans too, probably.
yeah, $1.3 billion deficit. So Penn State's actually making money now, and based off the renovations and what they project, uh,
Mm-hmm.
this would include. Let's see, I think you're looking at before, but it would include 15% increase of restrooms, 24 new elevators, 12 more escalators, 4 new stair towers, 102 more points of sale for concessions,
Mm-hmm.
increase of suites, addition of loge boxes, which my understanding is kind of if you if you ever gone to a baseball stadium or even a football
Mm-hmm.
stadium, and it's kind of where those areas above the seating bowl where is more wheelchair accessible areas such as that. That
Mm-hmm.
is kind of what a loge box is. Additional broadcast level, uh, but they're also going to have a new kind of front door welcome center for Beaver Stadium. And an interesting part of that it's a home for the community that would include a 21,000 square foot facility for events and other uses.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be interested to see what that turns out to be and how that what they use that space for. But
Listen,
overall, yeah,
they
$700 million starts in January. It's supposed to end in head of 2027 season.
It's. I mean, you need to upgrade. Number one, it needs upgrades. There's no question about it. We sit in the press box and we're like sitting like, what the fuck is this? And I'm not asking for us to get a huge upgrade. I just want the bare minimums. But the suites in general, there's some suites, but you need more. That's what the average. It's not about. It sounds shitty to say, but it's not about the average fan anymore. It's not about the guy that can just afford the ticket down low or even in the upper decks. It's about catering to these corporate people because they're going to fund the stadium. They're going to fund the naming rights. They're going to fund your NIL funds,
Yep.
hopefully. And that's the plan. And I mean, don't get me wrong. The Mount Nittany Club, pretty cool. The suites are also pretty cool right now, but you need more. Average attendance around the country is going down. It's not, and don't get me wrong, Penn State still sells out all the time, but you still need to cater to some of these corporate guys. And end of the day, you're sold out every year for suites. If you add more suites, what's the common denominator? You're going to get more sales. You're going to sell more suites. You're probably still going to sell out suites, and you could charge whatever the hell you want for these suites. Now, are you pricing out the average fan a little bit? Yes, probably a little bit, but there's still going to be tons of tickets available. It's just going to make some games harder than most. Like the whiteout's going to be even tougher to get a ticket than it already is. It's going to be I don't know. It's definitely an interesting idea. I think it makes sense. I think you need upgrades to stadium, and all in all, this is going to probably help more than just a football program. It's going to help you get a college football playoff. Krieger was talking about potentially getting a World Cup game for the Women's World Cup in 2031. This is going to be huge for Penn State. And if you can make this a playoff compatible stadium, that's huge.
Yeah,
To host a college football playoff there would be enormous.
and notably, they are currently winterizing some of the or winterizing the piping at Beaver Stadium. So if Penn State doesn't make the college football playoff this year, does get to host a game, they can host that game at Beaver Stadium because the stadium desperately needed a lot of maintenance and reservation or renovation or here in the near future. But this was desperately needed for Penn State, and the board of trustees, I think, overall saw that. Only two board of trustee members ultimately voted no on it. I think three abstained, and the rest said yes. So it was pretty overwhelming yes from the board of trustees as well.
Also, I mean, let's be honest. Everyone around college football is talking about this, not just for the sole fact that they're upgrading their stadium, but the fact that they're doing this during an NIL era where every amount and every dime, every quarter, every penny is going towards NIL for most programs. And most programs are saying, like, we're going to put facilities on pause.
Yep.
And then Penn State's doing the complete opposite. They're saying, no, we're going to do both. Watch.
Yep.
So
it
is a little bit of a flex.
So, yeah, construction for the major renovations set to begin next January after the football season concludes, after next January when the football season concludes. It will affect Beaver Stadium during the season. It's unclear how it would affect it, but construction will be ongoing throughout all of next year. And then a second phase will begin in 2026 before the following phase begins in 2027. And I believe the goal right now is to have that complete for the 2027 home opener.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be an exciting one. Hopefully, we'll get to see the whole new facade and all that other stuff that they're building. Hopefully, nothing goes wrong and it goes together pretty quickly and simply.
As of right now, the 2027 season opener is set for September 4th, 2027. So you're looking at, somewhere early January 2025 to probably late August for all that renovations.
And as of right now, it's projected to be a real hard one against Syracuse at the moment. Could change, but who knows? But yeah, I guess that's really it. Is there anything else you want to really touch on before we sign off today?
I do not. I do not think so. I think we touched on pretty much everything here.
Okay, cool. We did see that the whiteout was kind of tipped a little bit, maybe by NCAA football, EA Sports, with their little trailer came out.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. But they did say it did make it seem like the whiteout was Ohio State, but that's just a guess. I mean, they've also done a lot of things. They also had Ohio State losing to who was it? Like Michigan State or something? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should know soon who the whiteout is, and a lot of the TV assignment for Penn State's games here this season.
Should know this weekend actually, because Fox has the rights to Friday night games. They'll be announcing that later this week. We'll see if Penn State gets one. I'd be a little shocked if they didn't get one.
Should know soon because Fox. I forget how many, but Fox had the first pick for like a number of, I think the first 5-6 games or so. They had the first choice. It'll be interesting to see when that gets announced because Fox has been announcing a lot of games over the last few weeks. So it should be known soon.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. And
because believe it or not, we're already about to be in June.
Yeah, it's insane, man. It's crazy. But other than that, I do want to say next week, stay tuned. We're going to have a full breakdown of the May 31st official visit weekend. We'll kind of break down who's who, where they stand in the recruitments, who Penn State has a good shot of adding, because I'd be shocked if they didn't add at least one, maybe two, maybe even more commitments from that weekend. It is the first weekend, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But some really good prospects coming to State College next weekend. We'll have the latest for you on that. We'll have the latest for you on everything else Penn State recruiting. I'm assuming you're probably going to do a defensive hot board or big board too. So.
Yeah, there will be a defensive big board this week.
That will be up soon. Penn State basketball also officially is scheduled to take on Virginia Tech in Baltimore in a non-conference game. I believe it's called the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame game, which is interesting because that game's kind of rotated a bit over the years. It was in Canada one year. Now this year it's in Baltimore. So it is cool to see. It is an early season game too, November 15th. So maybe hear me out. Might be able to catch some Yankees baseball down there if both teams make it, and you never know. But if Yankees in Baltimore obviously make it, but it's not a bad trip. It's a nice little trip. It's also kind of a little bit of a homecoming for Ace Baldwin, who is
Yeah,
officially not able to leave. So that's a good sign. Team
it's
is
as
set.
official as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, they can't leave unless you want to sit out a year, and I don't even think you could do that. So, but yeah, other than that, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast down below on YouTube or on any podcasting app you're on, Spotify, Apple, Google, etc. Um, also, like I said, stay tuned. We're gonna have another podcast next week. We might sneak another one this week. We'll try to see what. It's gonna be tough actually because Memorial Day weekend, but you never know. There might be some breaking news that comes about, and we'll be the first to report on it. But for me and Dylan, that's another episode of the Penn State 365 podcast. Signing off.